Alright guys, since we already know who are going to be the next 3 SSR unit from the in-game announcement, let's just have a quick look at their skills, and also I'll be giving some of my thoughts on whether you should be summoning for them or not, and also which one. So the 3 character we'll be getting is going to be Eita. We will also be getting Yamagata, and also we'll be getting Akaashi. Okay, so 2 characters from Shotozawa and 1 character from Fukudani. So let's just take a look at them. So Eita, quite simple. He is just going to be a pinch server for the surfing position, which is a bit unfortunate because there are already a lot of good surfing setters in this game. So obviously there's already Okawa, and coming up we're also going to get Atsumomiya. So the value of Eta Semi or Semi Eta is not really going to show unless you don't happen to have them. And also right now, because in this game you can only choose a replacement, like only one pinch server. And what that basically means is that if you actually decide to have a pinch server for the surfing position, which normally very likely your your setter can already serve very well, you're also stripping away your ability to use a pinch server for the other position as well, which is quite unfortunate. So that's kind of why overall I wouldn't really recommend him. However, in all fairness, I would say that he's actually very good, mainly for the fact that if you actually take a look at his skill 4, if he actually score an ace with the surf, you are actually always also able to increase awareness and also reflex. Now, it's not written here, and I don't have him, so I don't know. But from the way it's written, it doesn't seem like there's any cooldown, which basically means if you actually play this in the likes of club contests, you can literally increase your awareness and reflex for your whole team like massively. Because in club contests, it's very easy to score surf aces, etc. Right? So that's kind of why I do think he's still going to be very, very good as a pinch server. It's just that a lot of times the setters can already surf, and you rather prefer your pinch server for a different position. So normally it's going to be the mid blocker when there's lack of surfing options. Okay, so that's going to be my source on Semiata. Vast majority of the time you wouldn't be going after this. Okay. Then let's go for Yamagata. So the Yamagata, I know a lot of people were waiting for him as the fourth member of Shotozawa, and he definitely works very, very well here. If you just take a look at his kit, it seems very, very straightforward. He's able to increase his own reflex, a save, a block, sorry, yeah, so he is able to perform a save, and also if the enemy's block is perfect, then your save will be increased even further, and then his ultimate skill is a receive. No other additional benefit, okay? So very straightforward kit, to be honest. Now, first of all, I just want to complain about skill 3. This is pretty much useless in my opinion, because when the enemy get a perfect block, it's like 99% sure you lost that point. It's normally just going to be a block kill. So I honestly don't know in what circumstance you will actually be able to trigger skill 3. So on this note, if you do are actually planning to get dupes on Yamagata, I would strongly recommend you dupe him up first before unlocking his skill 3. Okay, this skill 3 just seems absolutely useless to me. But let's talk about the rest of his kit. So to be honest, the only thing which kind of shines for him is the fact that he has a high reflex, which works very, very well with Shotozawa team, because I kind of already mentioned multiple times on my channel before. If you have Ushijima dupe 2, what makes Ushijima able to spam ultimate attack, it's actually all about whether you can get a critical receive or critical block, and therefore Yamagata has that reflex built in, giving him that extra chance of doing a critical receive or a critical save is going to be highly important for Yujima when he's at Dupe 2, okay? Not to mention, obviously, he is often the fourth member of your Shotozawa school bond as well. Now, there's also something not written here, but it's also going to be his skill resonance event. At 2 dupes, you can ignore that, it's pretty useless. At 6 dupe, however, he's going to get a massive upgrade, which is that whenever anyone on your team perform critical action, you are able to reduce the cooldown for your ultimate attack. And what that basically means is that if you actually play him in a very critical heavy team, such as Shotozawa school teams, you are pretty much able to use Yamagata's ultimate attack every other turn, which is absolutely insane. So that's kind of why he is going to be very, very well in any kind of critical based team. It doesn't have to be Shotozawa, but as long as your team can consistently crit, then he would also be performing very well. But you need 6 dupes for that, okay? So just remember that. Vast majority of the time, I'll probably recommend you guys, if you still need a force member for Shotozawa School Bond, I would definitely recommend picking him up, okay? And now we move on to the last character, which is going to be Akaashi. Now, Akaashi is actually the best SSR setter, in my opinion. If we just ignore speciality, he's just the best SSR setter because he's actually quite universal, which I'll talk about in a bit. Now, the only problem with Akaashi is that a lot of people probably have already summoned for Orikawa. And if you already have Orikawa, then Akaashi is going to be an easy skip. Now, you may be wondering, what if I have Bokuto, right? Is Akaashi going to be paired better with Bokuto? Does Bokuto only work with Akaashi? The answer is no, okay? Orikawa works just as well with Bokuto. Yes, Akaashi is able to provide some additional things, which Orikawa is not able to do, which does make him a better fit for you or Bokuto, okay? I'm not going to die. If you are going to be, trying to figure out which setter is going to be the best fit for you or Bokuto, purely based on their kit, Akaashi is going to win over Orikawa. However, the reality is Orikawa is a UR character. Akaashi is only an SSR. So unless you're going to invest a lot of dupes in Akaashi, otherwise Orikawa is just going to have much higher raw stats and going to boost your team power a lot more. And in this game, team power is actually quite important because if your team power is a lot lower than the opponent, that's going to be an instant lose for you, okay? So that's kind of why there's almost zero reason why you'll be neglecting to put a UR character in and instead put an SSR character, no matter how good their skill is. So that's kind of why if you really have to compare the two, Orikawa is just going to instantly win, even though Akaashi may be a better pairing with Bokuto. Now, if we take a look at that from the other angle, does that also mean if I don't have Bokuto, then there's no reason for me to pick up Akaashi? I would say no. And in fact, if you do not have Orikawa, I would seriously recommend you guys to consider picking up Akaashi. Now, the reason why Akaashi is actually very, very good and also the best SSR setter, in my opinion, is for two reasons. One, he's going to be very universal. And two, he has a pretty broken game mechanics, which can increase your team power further and also can force some really unexpected synergy in your team. Now, so to talk about the 2 points. So first point, he's actually quite universal because, for example, if you actually get him to dupe 2, he's able to increase your team morale. And as we all know, when you're actually in team morale, you're able to increase all of your stats by 20%. So regardless what you're trying to build a receive team, quick attack team, power attack team, or block team, right, it's going to help you. So that's kind of why it's already going to be very good. And furthermore, if you actually take a look at his kit, there's nothing specific about power attack here, okay? So he is just going to be very good no matter what kind of team you want to play him on. And also, he does have ability to actually debuff one of your teammates, to remove the debuff on one of your teammates, which once again is actually quite rare. Not many characters have that gimmick, so he does have that utility use as well, okay? Then the second point is that he actually have a very broken gimmick, and that's going to be his skill suite. And that is basically whenever he has a critical set, basically the spike afterwards, so basically the person he's set to will get a guaranteed critical spike as well. And this is massive. First of all, if you're wondering, can he actually reliably get a critical set? Yes, he can, because first of all, you will be building his potential with crit stats, so he can get increased crit stats from there. And second of all, his first part of his skill tree also says for every 4 increase in team morale, when you're in team morale awakening, you're able to further increase your awareness. And because I already recommended previously, you are Bokuto memory is a must-have. And that will increase the duration of how many times you will be in Team Morale Awakening. And if you just think about it, right? With Team Morale Awakening, assuming you don't have Bokuto, if you have Bokuto, then Akaashi is kind of no-brainer to get, right? But if you do not have Bokuto, what that basically means is that you Team Morale Awakening will be lost for 10 touches. And remember, in this game, every single touch is going to give you 6 Team Morale. So that by in total already means when you have Team Morale Awakening, you are guaranteed to get at least 60 team morale. And that basically means it's a 15 times increase of whatever this buff is. So you can see it's actually going to be very, very easy for Akaashi to stack up his awareness. And I was just talking about single activation of Team Morale Awakening. Vast majority of the time, you should be able to activate that twice in a match. And also, if you actually have him how I do, and he's an SSR character, so you can definitely use Milk on him, especially because his skill 2 is also quite good. So his skill Resonance 2 is also quite good. You can increase that even further, okay? So it's actually really easy to get critical set with him. And then that can guarantee the spiker afterwards to be a critical spike as well. And that is going to be massive because, first of all, you have to realize if you can already have a way to consistently do a critical spike, what that basically means is that for your potentials, for your memories, for other team building, etc., you do not have to stack any awareness stats on those characters anymore. And instead, you can focus or change off those slots into like pure attack stats, or maybe in like crit damage stats instead. And all of a sudden, you're going to increase your powerful spikes or quick spikes. Once again, it doesn't discriminate, right? You can actually increase your power spike or crit spike by 40 or 50% because you no longer have to stack up on your awareness. You can change all of them into different stats instead. So that's kind of why he's going to instantly make an improvement to how strong all of your spikes are. Once again, very, very universal. And then the second half, which also makes this even more broken, is like I said, he can actually create some really unexpected synergy because there are actually quite a few characters in this game which actually reduce their crit rate to 0. And normally you are expecting them to never crit. However, with Akaashi, you can now actually force them to crit and therefore making them hit even harder. Now, the two characters in particular, this is going to be beneficial for is going to be Osamu Miya. Osamu Miya will be converting all of his awareness stats into pure attack technique. So first of all, you're not really losing your crit rate, you're just converting all of them to some kind of buff to yourself already. And then if you can also make sure he crit anyway, even though he has 0% crit rate, by using Akaashi's skill 3, all of a sudden you're already gonna be increasing his already gig above spike skill to even higher level, to even higher multiply. And he can actually make Osamu hit even harder than the parry of Asumi plus Osamu. And that's just how crazy Akaashi is. And then the second character is that SP Hinata. Now for this to work, SP Hinata actually needs 60, but basically when SP Hinata has 60, he is able to convert all of his crit rate into crit damage. Now normally you'll be thinking like, what are you talking about? Like if I have 0% crit rate, how am I going to use all those crit damage? Yes, normally the way you're supposed to do it is that if you actually have a critical receive, then Hinata will actually get 100% increase in critical rate as well. So by the time he actually spikes, he can still utilize all of those massively buffed out crit damage as a result. Obviously, that actually relying you to have a critical receive, which may not actually be that consistent depending on what kind of team build you have. But once again, if you have Akaashi, doesn't matter. He is going to provide another way for SP Hinata to guarantee his crit, even if you do not have those perfect receive, or sorry, critical receive. So once again, he opened up essentially another door for those of characters who normally you expect them to play in a certain way, but Akashi just opens up a completely new door for them. And that's kind of why I also think it's quite game changing for those kind of like unexpected synergies. And that's kind of why overall to be honest, I have very, very high opinion of Akashi, and that's why I say he's the best SSR setter, in my opinion, because of all those reasons. Even if you do not want him to pair up with Bokuto, he can pair up with SP Hinata, which is normally in a receiving team, or pair up with Osamu, which is normally in a quick spike team. Now, yes, sure, those two normally have their own dedicated setters, but every now and then you probably are forced to play a different setter just in order to counter the opponent's speciality, etc. And that just makes Akashi very good as a universal setter, no matter whether you're trying to do a power spike speciality or maybe just on the bench normally for when you get hard counter based on the opponent's speciality and then you need to swap in to a different setup. All right, Akashi is going to fit the job very, very well. So that's kind of why I do really, really highly recommend Akashi if you do not have Oikawa instead. But like I said, if you already have Oikawa, then unfortunately there's just no reason of why you will be not playing a UR character and instead go for an SSR. But yeah, that's gonna be my thoughts on the 3 upcoming SSR character. Let me know what you guys think and also which one you'll be going after.